Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Okay.
Turn up your mind.
Oh, thank God it's Friday, you bastards. That's your movie. Call sign chaos. Call sign chaos. Come in chaos. I'm killing somebody. I'll get right back to you. Okay, chaos. Don't forget to smile. Oh, we now have a general secretary of defense as, we have a general in the civilian position of secretary of defense. Now, in this way, I will say this is progress. Okay, just bear with me. He's not a former pharmaceutical salesman for Cyril or another, S-E-A-R-L, Cyril. You remember Donald Rumsfeld in the poetry of D.H. Rumsfeld? There are known knowns and there are unknown unknowns, and there are things we know we do not know, but the things that we don't know that we don't know. See, that's what comes and bites you in the ass, and that's why we got to go to war in Iraq. So in this way, this is better, but he's a Marine freaking 4-star general. Due respect paid. Here, saluted you, sir. However, Pentagon's a civilian place. It's a place for civilians. It's, the commander-in-chief, just in case you're wondering. Until they deputize him, I guess. The POTUS, the president-elect, he will serve as a civilian, and he is the commander-in-chief, you see. And the commander-in-chief is supposed to talk to another civilian over at the Pentagon. And then the people at the Pentagon, they decide what's in our national interest along with the commander-in-chief, who will make the ultimate decision of whether to take this country to war. Yes, I know, it's so quaint. You think that Congress has something to say about it. No, not really. I mean, they'll authorize use of force, as they're getting a mani-pedi. That's how much thought goes into it, right? Because there's so much steel that gets used in war. There's so much freaking steel. And the Commerce Secretary, the new guy, Wilbur Ross, who's married to Betsy McCarthy, that crazy right-wing fringe lunatic bitch on CNN all the time. Yeah, Wilbur Ross has this little habit. He buys up steel companies, like in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, like, in Gary, Indiana, all your steel mills that aren't operating anymore. You could thank the new incoming Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross. Because Wilbur Ross purchased Acme Steel. Wilbur Ross bought Bethlehem Steel and all their assets. The Gary Plate Mill of U.S. Steel. They purchased Weirton Steel, Georgetown Steel. They completed a merger with Midel Steel. And then Midel took over ArcelorMittal or Middle. So all you people that are looking at your, backyards and you see these dilapidated, empty, robbed blind steel mills, these Wilbur Ross is the guy that did that to you. Now, isn't it fascinating that when he conglomerated all your steel mills into his very own steel company, his very own International Steel Group, that's when we were at war in Iraq. And guess what the Mad Dog General, the 4-star, forgot to do? He forgot to place an order for MRAPs. He forgot to place an order for those mine-resistant wraps, that go around the vehicles. Oh, the vehicles, because now that we're not at war in Iraq, those vehicles are patrolling your streets. Oh, yeah, we sold 13,000 of those up-armored Humvees to the local cop patrolling the town that used to have a steel mill in it, because now people are snorting oxy. Watching this cabinet come together, God, it's like watching the Manson family have a reunion. Do you know what I mean? It's so, and the more I read, the more nauseous I get, and it's almost to the point where I don't want to know anymore. I haven't never got to that point. I did spend last night watching the Trump in a chat room. Oh, well, they know who we are now. I mean, all these years, never thought about the digital effort. Never really thought about it. We've been doing this for so long. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, we really ought to invade their news feeds the way that they invade ours, except our news is real, but they don't know that. And so they'll think I'm the liar, which is fine. It's a badge I'll wear proudly. So I infiltrate, and they're like, "Oh, I miss Trump so much. Oh, look, it's Daddy. I swear to God, they call him Daddy. They call the Emperor King. They call him like all these really creepy authoritarian names. It's like these guys want to bow down so bad that if they had the money, they'd be on kink.com tipping out the cam girls right now. That's how bad they want to be controlled. So I'm writing in there, I'm going, hey, Goldman Sachs owns your ass. They don't even know what Goldman Sachs is. And they're like, Mad Dog Mattis, and they're spelling it Maddiss or Mades, Mad S, or Mad Est, Madest, and sometimes they put two. And so I write, all right, I'm going to throw you a bone, you morons. It's Mattis, Mattis, middle name Norman. You know what I mean? They really have no idea who he is. They just like his moniker. They just like that he's Mad Dog. So here's some more for you guys. Because the POTUS, the president-elect Donald Trump, because he went to a military-themed prep school after he was thrown out of a regular prep school, but he feels your pain. He hangs out with Wilbur Ross, who done this to you, who bought up all your freaking steel mills and then sold them off after the war in Iraq, after he got orders from the Pentagon, where Mad Dog will now be placing orders. They got orders from the Pentagon, his steel company did, to make these MRAP vehicles and send them off to, Iraq. They cost anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a piece. And they, after we were done with the war, we said, we don't want them anymore. So we gave them to the police departments. Oh my God, what a con. And Wilbur Ross is the guy that profited from all this. That's who Wilbur Ross is. He's the guy that bought up your steel mills. And Donald Trump just invited him into the hen house to be the commerce freaking secretary. Say, oh, he's a killer. He's a killer. Did you hear him last night? He's a killer. Yeah, he killed the entire Midwest is what he did. He's like Charles Manson on freaking steel steroids. And people are like, cheering this crap. And I'm like, oh my God, you really don't know what's going on in this world. It's so sad. But okay, so General Mattis is a 4-star Marine general. That's the scariest kind. Why? Because jarheads are taught one thing and one thing only, and that is how to be a killing machine. Whereas, seriously, this is what they're taught. They're not even alive. They're not even human. They're subhuman, amphibian, on 2 legs, walking around, waiting to be told who to kill and how fast to do it, and that they sit around and pray for war. That's what the training for a Marine is. You like it, you don't like it, but that's just the God's honest truth. The Air Force, where I served, was more like, hey, want to go to tech school? And of course the Marines think that we are the P word, and they're right. I have one. You grab it, I'll kick you in the nuts so hard you won't even know what hit you. I don't care, jarhead, no jarhead. But yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing, the Marines. So listen, I have a little video of when I was in basic training back in the day. I thought I would share it. This is actually Marine basic training. Okay, there now I lied. This is actually Marine basic training. Watch this.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your I do not look down on niggers, kites, wops, or greasers. Here you are all equally worthless. And my
Bullshit. I can't hear you. Yeah, that's day one. That is day one. That's exactly what my barracks look like too. Exactly what my barracks look like. And that's exactly what happens to you. But this doesn't happen. I don't know what they do in the Marine Corps. You know, the Semper Fi crowd. But I will tell you, in the Air Force, that doesn't happen to you until they've kept you up for 2 days, sitting in a chair behind this bunk, looking at it. And you're not allowed to sleep. You can't fall asleep. They'll just come in. They'll put a stick in a garbage can and wake you up, like using that as a loud noise. Or they'll kick the chair. Or they'll punch the locker, or do something like right by your head to scare you awake. So it's the tried and true methods of sleep deprivation, isolation, and public humiliation always works when you want to turn somebody into a killing machine. You have to break them down first, take away their humanity, call them pukes, amphibians, and blah, blah, blah. Well, this guy, Mad Dog, went all the way with that philosophy. He went all the way. Which in that world is really quite something. But he will need a waiver from Congress, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, because we have had on the books since 1947, when we first started having a Pentagon, okay? We didn't have all this military, industrial complex prior to the World War II. Didn't have all this crap. Didn't have this largest bureaucracy of all of our bureaucracies. It's so funny, the small government people, they're always about the small government. Well, this is the biggest bureaucracy we freaking have. They have a $600 billion budget. That's yearly. And we got a guy whose handle is chaos on the radio. Call sign chaos. Call sign chaos. Who's an avid reader. This is a plus. Okay, we finally found someone who reads. Yay for us. This is how they're selling him to us, that he's an avid reader. He reads. Yay. It's always a plus. It's a good thing. Maybe he'll read one of these damn contracts one of these days. But yeah, I mean, the guy served 41 years in the Marine Corps. He just retired. He's only been out of the Marine Corps for 4 years. And now they want him to be the head of the Pentagon. Now, the Pentagon is concerned with our national policy, our national foreign policy. What's best for America? If Donald Trump is really going to put America first, he would want a civilian, not somebody who was broken down as a young man and told he was an amphibian, a piece of amphibian dew, and then rebuilt into a war-fighting killing machine, which is what the Marines are. They're war-fighting killing machines, which is why when they come home and there's nothing left to kill, they get a little antsy, which is what you don't understand about them, that I do. However, this man is supposed to be a civilian for at least 7 years because the commander-in-chief, unless they deputize Donald Trump, because, he went to a military-themed prep school. He probably thinks he's, off of some killing.
To speak to Randy, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
hello.
Randi Rhodes. Air Force.
Well, the unthinkables happened. We have Donald Trump moving into the White House in 2017. Of course, this move brings extreme uncertainty to our country's financial future. I mean, you got the Don and his crew moving into the White House now, and who knows what they'll do to our economy. When he moves into the White House, everyone needs to get their own financial house in order before the Don and the crew have the time to do some serious economic damage to this country. Now, when it's time for financial security, it's time for gold. So call my friends at Visit ITM Trading. Get a free gold kit. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Gold's always brought its owners security in uncertain times just like this. Call ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Get expert guidance from their precious metals consultants. They've helped tens of thousands of people navigate this market. They have the best reputation in the industry. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2001. That was the day that energy trading giant Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It was the biggest bankruptcy in U.S. history up to that time. At its peak, the Houston-based Enron was the 7th largest company in the country. A combination of mismanagement and all-out greed sank Enron. The company used numerous accounting tricks and loopholes to hide billions of dollars of debt from its shareholders. In August of 2000, shares of the company were worth $90.75. But by November 30th, 2001, they had plummeted to just 26 cents. After filing bankruptcy, thousands of Enron employees were left to go down with the ship. Many employees and retirees had thousands of dollars worth of Enron stock. Employees were told the company would recover. They were encouraged not to sell off their stock and even to buy more, while at the same time, top executives were dumping their stock holdings. When the company went under, the employees' retirement accounts were wiped out. Some who had already retired had to re-enter the workforce. The following January, a New York Times report shared the stories of some of the 4,000 employees laid off in the immediate aftermath of the bankruptcy. One was told he lost his job by voicemail. Another was told he had 30 minutes to clear out his desk. Multiple lawsuits won a portion of the money back for Enron stockholders, but the employees lost more than $2 billion in retirement funds. In the end, more than 20 top executives were found guilty for the crimes they committed while running the company. Enron became synonymous with the corporate greed that has been the hallmark of 21st century America. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit randyrhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
All right, just so you're clear, you want a Secretary of Defense who is a business executive. That's where you would put somebody with some business acumen. This is the largest bureaucracy we got, is the Department of Defense. It's $600 billion every single year. You don't want a war fighter there, okay? I mean, kudos to him. I salute him. Great service. 41 years, went all the way, all 4 stars. Yay. When I was in the military, if a guy like that walked by me, I was like, oh, he was like a movie star. He was like a rock star to me, okay? So no disrespect meant to you, Mad Dog. But how did he get that name? How did he? Okay, well, I'll tell you. Here's some of his quotes. You ready for this? Okay, on war protesters. Here's what he had to say about war protesters. Even if you're a veteran, I was a war protester. I did not want to go into Iraq. Apparently, Donald Trump was a war protester. He did not want to go into Iraq. That's what he says. Even though he said, oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, go ahead, go to war. Like that. And even though in 2007, when they asked Donald Trump, what do you think we ought to do in Iraq? He said, get out. And they said, well, how do you get out? He goes, you declare victory and you leave. You get out. You just get the hell out. And now, of course, he's saying, oh, well, getting out created this vacuum and ISIS went right into it. And no, now we got to bomb the shit out of them is what he said. This is a quote from your POTUS. Okay, so here's what the Mad Dog had to say about the war protesters like Donald Trump. When you men get home, and you face an anti-war protester, look him in the eyes and shake his hand. And then wink at his girlfriend because she knows she's dating a P-word. But he said it. I mean, it would have been better if I could say it, but I really hate that word. Okay, on the importance of artillery, he said, okay, this was in 2003 when Saddam Hussein's army was disbanded, okay, by Donald Rumsfeld, the previous SecDef, okay, who was Pharmaceutical, he was a pharmaceutical dude. He was like CEO of a giant big pharma company called Cyril. They're so annoying. Mnuchin. All these they're just so annoying, these people. Anyway, he said he walked up to the elders, the Iraqi elders, who were offering, the Iraqi army. They were surrendering. And he said to them, I come in peace. I didn't bring artillery, but I'm pleading with you with tears in my eyes. If you fuck me, I'll kill you all. Sounds like a business executive, doesn't he? I mean, the testosterone-driven military where women are raped, like, one out of every four has, been raped. I think this is good. This kind of, military guidance in the executive position at the Pentagon. Okay, on women beaters, men who beat women, he said, he was talking to his guys. This is February 2005. He said, this was at a panel. So he was actually not in the field. So this can't be like hyperbolic, because he was actually thoughtful and giving his thoughts about, And he said, you go into Afghanistan, you got guys who slap women around for 5 years because they didn't wear a veil. Guys like that, they ain't got no manhood left anyway. Yay. He said, so it's a hell of a lot of fun to shoot them. Actually, it's quite fun to fight them, It's a hell of a hoot. It's fun to shoot some people, and I'll be right up there with you. I like it. I like brawling. Okay. Sounds like a great business executive to put in charge of a giant bureaucracy. On manners, he said, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. I'm telling you, this is a Marine. It's a Marine. His purpose is to be a killing machine. So if this is offensive to you, it should not be, because he's a Marine general talking to his troops. But he's not an executive of a civilian Pentagon. You understand? It's not a good fit. And wait, I'm not done quoting him. Here he is on assholes, everybody, on assholes. He said, that said, there are some assholes in the world that just need to be shot. There are hunters and there are victims. By your discipline, cunning, obedience, and alertness, you will decide if you are a hunter or a victim. It's really a hell of a lot of fun. You're going to have a blast out here. Okay, so now he sounds like Colonel Kilgore from Apocalypse Now. I love the smell of napalm. Smells like victory. Kilgore, was insane and a loser, but okay. And then that was in front of 200 Marines. And then on history, his quote is, I'm going to plead with you. Do not cross us. Because if you do, the survivors will write about what we do here for 10,000 years. Okay, that's Mickey and Mallory Knox territory, where they leave somebody alive to tell the story, to tell the tale. Yeah, I mean, he's probably a great Marine general. In fact, everybody says he is. I don't know. I never served in the Marines. I was in the Air Force. We go to tech school. You become killing machines. There's the diff in the services. Certain jobs require certain skills, and yours apparently, requires lose your mind and become a killing machine.
Oh, shit, I can't hear you.
Sir, yes, sir.
What's your name, scumbag?
Sir, Private Brown, sir.
Bullshit. From now on, you're Private Snowball. Do you like that name?
Sir, yes, sir.
Well, there's one thing that you won't like, Private Snowball. They don't serve fried chicken and watermelon on a daily basis in my mess hall.
All right, then. That's the Marines. It is. And if you ever wondered why these guys, who are in the chat rooms are so uniquely nasty and racist, we sort of kind of teach it to the killing machines. And General Mattis is that. He is that drill sergeant on, times 400 billion thousand, because he's a 4-star Marine general. God bless him. God love him. But Central Command and is not the same as the Pentagon. That's why we have the chiefs of staff. That's why we have a Secretary of the Air Force, a Secretary of the Army, Secretary of the Navy, Secretary of the Marines. Those are the military positions, and their job is to look out after the troops. The Pentagon, on the other hand, is an executive job. It is to deal with the budget and the money and decide where the spending goes and what's the best thing for, and you know who he's going to interface with. You know who his first contact is at the White House, Mad Dogs? General Michael Flynn, a 3-star. Now, why is Trump loading up these executive positions with military? Why? Why, everybody? Because he's going to bomb the shit out of something. That's why. So prepare. And Wilbur Ross probably couldn't be happier. You know why? Wilbur Ross owns all the steel companies except for one in Oregon. There's only two. And Wilbur Ross owns one of them. And they make, you know how much steel is involved in war? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This is like so incestuous. I almost feel like he's, having these meetings not in Trump Tower. But like, in some brothel. I mean, it's just like everybody wants to get on and all these Goldman Sachs people will guide all the money. And they will make sure, listen, behind every great crash that we've ever had was Goldman Sachs. Behind every single solitary one. Every single one. You know why gas prices were $4 a gallon after the market crashed? Do you know why? We were told we had an oil shortage or whatever, and the free flow oil. No, it was because the people with the big money got out of the market and went into commodities. And the commodity they liked the most was oil. And they bought and bought and bought, and it propped up the price, and the price went up, and you paid at the pump. Goldman Sachs is in every nook and cranny of your life. And now they're in the executive branch with two generals and a steel guy. Oh my freaking God. Holy crap. And there's no way you could tell this to a Trump supporter. It's too complex. They're like lawnmower men. I never knew it was so complex, Randy. And therefore, I must be lying. That's what they do. You lie. You lie. Why would I lie to you about this? Why would I tell you this? Why would I explain to you what a boom and bust economy we have had every single time Goldman Sachs is involved in our government? What? I mean, how could you people who live in these steel towns who did vote for Trump not be pissed off that he's trying to put Wilbur Ross into the Commerce Secretary? How could you not be pissed off that he's loading up the entire cabinet with Goldman Sachs people? It blows my mind. It blows my mind. And then two generals already. He's got a 3-star and a 4-star. Listen, these guys have a purpose, and I respect that purpose. I really do. I served, big time. I know what the culture is, though. I know exactly what goes on. And I know what these men do. And I know what these men ask other men to do. You think there's a thin blue line in the police? Oh my God, you have no idea what goes on in the military. Oh my God. Okay, so you have all this, and you're going to put a general in charge of even the executive portion of the money spending. I mean, this is insane. He's a brilliant warfighter. Everyone says that. I have no earthly idea, like I said. But, he apparently, he will be the first defense secretary who was both a general and a warfighter. I mean, he was on the ground. He actually loves killing things. There is no question that this man lived to kill things. Now, his last job, he was head of U.S. Command. Now, let's just review, because the media just loves this guy. I mean, they just love him. Now, already I told you, he forgot to get the MRAPs for the vehicles that were coming across improvised explosive devices, which were blowing people's extremities off, blowing our soldiers' extremities off. Guys that, driving these vehicles didn't have the wraps, right? He forgot to order those. All right. Could happen to any 4-star, I guess. We're going to put him in charge of the biggest bureaucracy. Okay, good. But anyway, so at U.S. Command, they're responsible for all the military operations in the Middle East and Afghanistan. Did we win? Did we win there? If we won, I missed it. Nobody will say that. I don't know why they won't say it. But he was in charge of U.S. Command, which is responsible for all the military operations across the Middle East and in Afghanistan. And if you listen to Donald Trump, we spent $6 trillion in the Middle East, and it's never been in worse shape. Well, thank you very much, General Mattis, head of U.S. Command. That was a great warfighting plan. Because apparently now we've won. I mean, he's very popular. Conservatives love him because he gets to kill things like humans. And he loves it. He loves it. He said he enjoys killing the enemy. Actually, it's quite fun to fight them. You know? He said it's fun to shoot some people. I'll be right up there with you. I like doing it. I like brawling. Okay. So he's going to report to Flynn, who was asked to leave the Defense Intelligence Agency. They're also talking about General Petraeus, or General Betrayus, depending on how you feel about leaking classified information on purpose to your lover, with the names of covert operators, the methods and of gathering intelligence, what the intelligence actually said, who we got it from, and what they told us. You know, if that's your thing, Petraeus is your guy. Oh, he deserves a chance to rehabilitate himself. So he'd be the third general. He'd be the third one. And they're talking about him for Secretary of State, which is supposed to be a diplomat's position. A diplomat is somebody who talks you out of going to war by pointing out how much you have to gain by not doing it. So we're going to have he's just going to put like all these military guys around him. And I know it's because he got stuck at a military themed prep school after being thrown out of, real prep school. And he thinks he's been in the military. Now, the one good thing I will say about Mattis is Mattis is a war fighter. And anybody who knows anything about war, who's been in it, who's seen it, or whose dad has told you about it, or you can see the effects of somebody you love with post-traumatic stress disorder from being in the bowels of hell, which is what war is. War is hell. It's absolute hell on earth. It's the worst. I mean, maybe you've been through a disaster. Maybe you're going through the Gatlinburg fire. Maybe you went through an earthquake. Maybe you've been through wildfires out west. Maybe you've, been through flooding. Maybe you've been through Hurricane Andrew, a Category 5 storm, and saw houses just ripped apart and into the size of matchsticks. Maybe you've seen body parts in the street as a result of some horrible Hurricane Katrina negligence. Okay, amplify that to every single day of your life for at least a year. Every single day. Except the act of God is yours. It's your act. You're doing it. You're causing it, and you know it. And you've been taught to do it and praised for doing it. And you smell it, and you taste it, and you see it every single day. That is the biggest deterrent to going to war there ever was, is being near it, in it, or around it, or knowing somebody who has and seeing the damage it does to an otherwise loving, wonderful human being. So that's the good thing about General Mattis, is I think he will be the one person to say when Trump says, I want to bomb Iran, even though Mattis hates Iran, he thinks they're an enemy too. He doesn't like this Iran deal. Mattis is, very, 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 very much into killing things. And, if he was told to, buy stuff, from Wilbur Ross, go buy the steel from Wilbur Ross to take us to war in Iran, trust me, he'd place the order. But I think before he actually said, to the president, okay, go to Congress and get permission, to use force in Iran, I think he would say, sir, do you have any earthly idea that this is not your military-themed prep school? Do you have any earthly idea what this really is? And hopefully General Mattis would sit him down and show him some photos, some personal photos of friends he's lost, of, what happened in Haditha. You remember, that was under his command. Do you remember the incident in Haditha where, I forget how many Marines, I think it was 8 or 9 Marines, went into some civilian house and just blew the whole family away because they were crazed with killing. And Mattis said, hey, those are my guys. I want the charges dismissed. Only one of those Marines was actually charged. And that was, I don't know why they always pick one to make an example of. It's kind of like all the torture at Abu Ghraib. They picked on 7 low-ranking reservists to go to Leavenworth, not the Secretary of Defense or Dick Cheney who was ordering the torture. Oh, no, it's always the low-ranking guy. In this case, a Lance Corporal, Justin Sherratt. He was charged. And Mattis stuck up for him. He said, hey, killing innocent people, that's part of war. He said, I don't know why you're charging this guy. He did, he killed things. We trained him to kill things. He killed things. They said, but they were civilians. They weren't attacking him, and they weren't. That's just part of it. And then they dismissed the charges against the Lance Corporal. And he said, with the dismissal of these charges, Lance Corporal Surratt may fairly conclude that he did his best to live up to the standards followed by U.S. fighting men throughout many wars in the face of life or death decisions made in a matter of seconds in combat, and as he has always remained cloaked in the presumption of innocence, with this dismissal of charges, he remains in the eyes of the law and in my eyes, innocent. Okay, so now he's...
You can't handle the truth.
Now he's Jack Nicholson. Yeah, this guy is really right out of Central Casting is the point of all these movie references, and that is why Trump loves him. He talks the talk, he kills the people, he defends his people who do, horrible things to civilians. He's the right guy.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I love me some beef jerky. I do. I love beef jerky. People make fun of me, but if you're a jerky lover, we're real picky about the jerky. You want big protein, big flavor, big packs, and very little carbs. And that's why my favorite snack is jerky, but you can't get the best stuff at the gas station. You can't even get it at the supermarket. You have to order it online from the best purveyors of jerky I've ever found, Herky Jerky. Herky Jerky is the official snack of the Randi Rhodes Air Force, and it comes in elk, buffalo, beef, and bacon. Oh, yes, bacon, hot, mild, 14 other incredible flavors too. And right now, get $6 off your order of $50 or more. And these aren't little 3-ounce frou-frou bags of jerky. These are big, beautiful, nearly 1-pound bags of fresh, delicious, perfectly spiced jerky that bites and chews like homemade jerky should. Go to herkyjerky.com and buy your 12.5 or 2-pound pack and take them with you everywhere. School, work, camping, or just stick the sticks in your bag for quick protein that feels and tastes like heaven. herkyjerky.com.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. According to the NLRB, Fuyao, a Chinese auto glass company, is violating the labor rights of American workers at its Moraine, Ohio plant. The labor board says Fuyao has been interfering with, restraining, and coercing employees in the exercise of their rights. Ralph Martin is one of the workers backing the UAW organizing drive in the former GM plant, now owned by Fuyao.
It's the low pay and the treatment we're getting in there from the company. They're showing a lot of favoritism. They like somebody else better than you, and you've been there longer. You don't even get a chance to those jobs, those higher paying jobs, to try to move up and better yourself and take care of your family. We just want better wages and working environment to be able to take care of our family.
We are all at will at any given moment. All of our jobs is out the door. There is no guarantee that we will not look up tomorrow and the rug will be snatched right out from under us.
Jocelyn Johnson Grant. She wants to join the UAW so she and co-workers have a real voice and the power to get higher wages than the $12.84 an hour current average wage at the Fuyao plant.
I would like to see the pay rate go up. I would also like to see better training, more safety. I want the union because it would give us a platform to stand on. It would give us a contract and a voice.
Fuyao has been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars by OSHA for safety violations. Fuyao has forced workers to attend anti-union meetings. Fuyao illegally stopped workers from wearing union logos on their clothes and forced workers to wear company uniforms. Timmy Jernigan is another Fuyao worker supporting the UAW.
First thing they told us when we hired in was that they believed that there was not a need for a union. When we started the initial organizing campaign, we were walking in wearing union T-shirts. We had hats, little buttons, headbands. Less than a month after that, we were getting fitted for uniforms.
Jernigan says safety is the top issue for him, but he wants a union contract to improve wages, benefits, and working conditions, too.
Safety first and foremost, because I need a safe work environment. I want to go home the way I came to work. And also in my contract, I would want the wage to be something that I can live off of. The organizing effort is an ongoing process, but I believe we will achieve our goal and we will become unionized.
Brought to you by the California Teachers Association. 325,000 educators who know quality public schools make a better California for all of us. Information on how California teachers are shaping a stronger future for our kids is online at cta.org. Brought to you by the Alliance for American Manufacturing, working to prevent the loss of American jobs caused by unfair foreign competition and working to promote fair trade laws to level the playing field for American workers. Information on how you can help create smart, worker-focused public policy is online at americanmanufacturing.org.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
We condemn bigotry and prejudice in all of its forms. We denounce all of the hatred, and we forcefully reject the language of exclusion and separation. We're going to come together. We have no choice. We have to, and it's better. It's better. We seek a future where every American child is fully included in the American dream. We're going to have our own American dream.
Our own.
And we're going to bring back the American dream. The problems that plague our inner cities or that afflict poor rural communities, and we do have those rural communities, some of them are poor. We're going to help those people. We're going to rebuild those communities. They're not permanent features of American life. They can be fixed, and together we're going to fix them. We are going to fix them. We've spent, as of this week, according to the latest count, we've spent $6 trillion in the Middle East. And the Middle East today is far worse than it's ever been. You will see changes very quickly. A shrinking works. You will see them.
You will see them. Okay, so U.S. command messed up Afghanistan and the Middle East. Let's put him at the Pentagon. I don't even understand, except that we're gearing up for war, and he wanted a wartime general. He wanted somebody like Patton. He wants a wartime consigliere. That's like, Tom, you're out. Ashton, you're out. Ashton Carter's our current Secretary of Defense. Sorry, Ashton, you're out. I need a wartime consigliere. I mean, honestly, we're going to war. There's just no question in my mind. Why else bring Wilbur Ross, the guy who, first of all, trashed the Midwest by buying up all these steel companies? He pulled a Mitt Romney. You know, he bought up all the steel companies, sucked all the cash out of them, conglomerated them, and sold off, millions and made so much money. It's crazy. And he's Trump's neighbor in next door to Mar-a-Lago in his $16,000 mansion. I mean, this is crazy. This is like so incestuous. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. This is like, it's like what you think Appalachia is, except it's happening in Palm Beach with the money to lead. And then, of course, why all the Goldman Sachs people? Well, there's going to be a war bubble. Don't you get it? There's going to be a big war bubble. Okay, let me just tell you. In 2008, this is how this whole steel story became very apparent. I want to show you how it works, okay? I want to show you how you do the research. So you're reading a little article, you pick a nice, respected, New York Times, a Wall Street Journal. I don't care. You like it from the right, read, get the Wall Street Journal. You like your news from... The news is going to be the news, okay? In all these papers. Because it is fact-checked. The opinion pages are different. The opinion page in the Wall Street Journal is going to have opinion from the right. The opinion page in the New York Times is going to have opinion from the left. But the news is the news, damn it. Jesus, I can't believe we're having this conversation, but I was in this chat room last night. They're so stupid, and I'm scared for them. I really am. These people are hanging on by their fingernails, looking at this guy like he's the great white hope, the great orange hope, and he's punking everybody. And in the meantime, while they're still going to get punked so hard, and they're going to rebel, we're going to war. Oh, geez. All right. So I'm reading this article, and it's called Trump Picks James Mad Dog Mattis as Secretary of Defense. And I'm just, reading along. And, it talks about, how the law prohibits him from being in the top civilian post in our, this is the second most awesome post we have as far as going to war. Okay, he's second only to the Commander-in-Chief, the Secretary of Defense. Okay, it's a really super powerful position, but it's an executive position. Okay, that's what it is. I mean, you're not a Southern Command anymore. You're not Northern Command. You're not Pacific Command. You're not Special Ops anymore. You're not the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. You're not the Secretary of the Air Force. Those people are in charge of their personnel. Those people are supposed to be there to be the principal military advisors to the Secretary of Defense, who is a civilian, and the President, the Commander-in-Chief, is also a civilian. That's the way it works. The military answers, in the end, to a civilian. Secretary of Defense, and then the President. That's how it works. Okay. So, the law prohibits a general from serving in the top civilian post unless he's been out of uniform for 7 years. Because he's only been out for 4, he's going to need a special legislation passed. Right now, you got lawyers and more lawyers and other lawyers drafting the piece of legislation that is necessary to get the waiver for him to serve. Okay, so that'll probably happen. I really have no doubt that will happen. But then, I'm reading through the rest of it, and I find out that in 2008, a civilian, okay, Inspector General report. This is why you don't want the military policing the military. They never rat on each other. Ever, never, ever. Something happens to you and you have to blame somebody either above you or somebody next to you. There's a choice. Either you can just shut up about it and go on with your own life, or we'll kick you out, or we'll humiliate you, or we'll make sure that you're in harm's way. We'll pick a really nice post for you. I mean, that's the way the military is. Okay, so I'm reading this, and it says in 2008, a Pentagon Inspector General report singled out Marine Corps Combat Development Command, which Mattis was commanding when he was a 3-star, for not seeing the urgency in getting the vehicles with the V-shaped hulls that deflect the bombs known as MRAPs. You remember Cher had to raise money to get our troops helmets? We were deployed without the gear that we needed. Okay, this is Mattis. This is Mattis's, watch that we're talking about. I don't want to disrespect him. I never served under him. I don't, I'll never be an officer. Ever. I was enlisted. You know what I mean? So I do have this special place for these guys. I don't know exactly why, but I do. But anyway, Wilbur Ross, when I saw the MRAPs and I realized, oh my God, those were the up-armored vehicles. Those were that's steel. That steel isn't Wilbur Ross in the steel business. So I go and I look up Wilbur Ross, and sure as anything, I see Wilbur Ross was there's only 2 steel companies left in the United States, his and an Oregon steel company. And he's bought up every other steel company and has and stole the pensions, took the employees, fired them like crazy, streamlined, downsized, right-sized, whatever you wanted to call it, and made a fortune off of making the Midwest steel country look this way. It blew my mind. I actually stopped reading at that point. I looked up to Captain Leary, and I said to him, the more I read, the sicker I'm getting. This administration is so freaking awful. It's so bizarre. It's so obvious. It's so telling. It's so deadly. I mean, the amount of devastation that is going to happen around the world and in our economy is going to be legend. It's going to be legend. It's going to make 2008 look like a pool party where you got soaked, okay? This is going to be massive global implosion. And I mean, so I look up Wilbur Ross, I go, okay, so who made the mine-resistant, ambush-protected armor for the vehicles? And where are those vehicles now? And that's when I see, they had the 1033 program, that's what it was called, where they sold all these vehicles to law enforcement to patrol places like in the Rust Belt. Because everybody's on oxycodone because the pain is so severe they can't take it anymore. Oh, my God. So I look up Wilbur Ross. Wilbur Ross is part of a lot of secret societies. And so it turns out is Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway. There is a society, it's called Kappa Beta Phi, which is an inversion of the Honor Society Phi Beta Kappa. Isn't that funny? And they meet every year in a secret meeting at the St. Regis Hotel. Their motto is the Vegas motto. That's where they got the Vegas motto. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, because it used to be what happens at the Regis stays at the Regis, and it's because of them. But it's a collection of the most vulgar, greedy, Wall Street callous men. The ones that Donald Trump calls killers. And they are. They've killed your town. They've killed your way of life. And now they're here to do it again and create another bubble. And this one's going to be a war bubble.
Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Born and raised here, and I've never seen anything even close to this in this county.
Deadly firestorm fueled by drought and high winds engulfs Tennessee towns.
We have made this decision because we are convinced, and it is the right one for Canada.
Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau approves controversial tar sands pipelines despite climate promises. Historic California drought has killed more than 100 million trees. West Coast crab fishery closed again due to another toxic algae bloom. Plus, Washington state scientists succeed at turning CO2 emissions into stone.
All of that success and failure straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Reality has a way of, hitting you in the nose if you're not paying attention.
Oh, hi, President Obama. How's your nose? This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, disturbing news continues out of Tennessee and these extraordinary wildfires.
Yes, another unprecedented wildfire event, and this time it is in Tennessee, where fast-moving, out-of-control wildfires have engulfed the towns of Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg outside the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. They're fueled by drought and high winds. They spread so rapidly without warning that residents and resort workers barely escaped with their lives. At least 7 confirmed dead as of airtime, hundreds of homes and buildings destroyed. In a press conference on Wednesday, Gatlinburg Mayor Mike Werner said the fires are unprecedented for the area.
It was a perfect storm, and for everything to happen, it had to happen with the exact timing that it did for this to happen. Everything had to be in place, and unfortunately it was in place.
Tennessee is officially in severe drought, according to federal monitors, along with much of the southeast, despite recent extreme rainfall events. The National Weather Service warns that Tennessee is now on track to have its driest year on record this year, amid what scientists predict will be the third hottest year on record in a row for the planet.
The videotapes of people fleeing this fire, trying to drive out of the fire, reminded me of the huge wildfires we saw up in Canada in the Fort McMurray area where the tar sands oil region is. Climate change, drought is deadly, and it is taking a toll on this nation.
You're right. Such wind-driven firestorms are more common in the West and in California. California now has more than 100 million dead trees, according to a new assessment this week from the U.S. Forest Service. That's thanks to that epic, historic 5-year drought in California, intensified by climate change. More than half of those dead trees died this year alone. The Forest Service budget is stretched thin, so they have formed a task force to prioritize funding for dead tree removal in the highest hazard areas.
Which means once fire season starts again in California, there's a lot of dead wood to burn.
Yep. Off the coast of California, state officials have again closed a stretch of the coast to commercial crab fishing for the second year in a row. That's because high ocean temperatures have again triggered a toxic algae bloom that has contaminated crabs from California's billion-dollar crab fishery with a potentially deadly toxin. In Canada, speaking of the Alberta tar sands region, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Tuesday approved two major controversial tar sands pipeline expansions to ship Alberta's dirty oil to ports on the British Columbia coast for export. That was against the strong condemnation of First Nations tribes and environmental groups.
We have made this decision because we are convinced, and it is the right one for Canada. It is a major win for Canadian workers, for Canadian families, and for the Canadian economy now and into the future.
Well, that's swell. I guess Canada is on its own planet, and it will have no effect on the rest of the globe.
You weren't the only one noticing the contradiction to Trudeau's pledges to cut Canada's global emissions contributions. Trudeau approved the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline and Enbridge Line 3, but rejected the controversial proposed Northern Gateway pipeline project across British Columbia. The mixed approvals seem to be a political compromise between increasing oil industry jobs in Alberta with his pledges to somehow cut Canada's carbon emissions.
And he's supposed to be the Liberal Prime Minister compared to the previous one, right?
That's right.
Just checking.
Finally, Washington State rocks, specifically for turning carbon dioxide into stone. Scientists in Washington State have replicated the results of a successful experimental carbon emissions storage project out of Iceland. They pumped carbon dioxide emissions into rock formations of volcanic basalt with CO2 that solidifies into harmless rock in just 2 years. The scientists in Washington went one better. They proved that the process can work with a far more common type of basalt rock. This could be a very important breakthrough if it can be scaled up.
So basically we can get carbon out of the air, turn it to stone, and save the planet?
One hopes.
That's the theory. Okay, good luck with that. Hurry. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us and follow us on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I don't want to think anymore. I really don't. The more I read, the more I understand, the more I know, the sicker I get. Really, it just gets to the point where I just can't take anymore. I just can't. I look at what's, shaping up over there. I look at, what's going on around me. I look at the fact that, what do we have? 49 days before we have a madman as the commander in chief, with the second in command over the military. Don't be confused. The vice president is the second in line for the continuity of government. But in the chain of command in the military, it's the commander in chief, the president of the United States, and then the secretary of defense. Now, people don't understand how their government works. I understand. I saw them all last night in the chat room, sending little turd icons to me. And I'm laughing my ass off. And they're saying that you got a flat ass. I'm like, how? I didn't even ask them how they would. I said, no, I have a very cute bum. And all of a sudden, okay, then let's attack her boobs. It's just so stupid. This is real grade school stuff. They don't understand the world around them. They don't understand the ramifications of Wilbur Ross. They don't understand why their steel mills went belly up. It's because Wilbur Ross freaking bought them and gutted them and sold them at a profit. And he collected all of them, every one of them. It's like the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life, this Wilbur Ross dude. And he's 79 years old, and he's married to a surrogate who was on the TV every single damn day advocating for Trump. And and then you find out Wilbur's going to be the Commerce Secretary, and the Goldman Sachs people are moving in, and then you've got 3 generals he's looking at. A general for Secretary of State, the most diplomatic position we have. The peacemakers of the world. And what did he... The whole campaign, Hillary and her emails, Hillary and classified emails, Hillary and emails, classified. And Petraeus actually pled guilty to doing it with intent. With intent. She had no intent to do anything, with those emails. Nothing. I mean, they're behaving as if she was, calling up Pakistan and saying, I think you're terrific. I think you are. Every Pakistani I've ever met is the smartest person. You're fantastic. You're amazing. And this is what Donald Trump has been doing, And you know who our real partner in that part of the world is? Because remember, Pakistan harbored Osama bin Laden. I know people are like, I don't want to hear about him anymore. That's so yesterday's villain. Yeah, well, so is Bane, you freaks. That's really old. That's older than the crack in my ass. But yeah, okay, so they're we hate you and you're a liar and I'm sitting there I'm laughing, but I'm trying to make them understand the world around them. I'm trying to, snap out of it, just wake the hell up. And they can't. They just can't. They cannot, no matter what you tell them. I was typing in Goldman Sachs owns your ass. You want to talk about my ass? Let's talk about your ass. Goldman Sachs owns it. They don't know what I'm talking about. They were like, oh, I miss him. I miss him so much. I miss him so much. And this guy, let me tell you something. All he did last night, it was supposed to be a thank you tour. It was a fuck you tour. That's what that is. He's out there using everybody's time and efforts and all the everything that, every time he travels as the president, not only are we going to have to pay for him, and not only are we going to have to put the gas in that Trump machine of his, and not only are we going to have to provide Secret Service for him, then they're going to rent. They're not going to buy. They're going to rent, it seems, the Secret Services, an entire floor, maybe 2, at Trump Tower from Donald Trump to protect Donald. Now, see, this is a business. If you could do it, God love you. You know what I mean? This is quite a business he's got going on there. We have to pay the taxes to protect him, and then he's going to collect those taxes in the form of rent from the Secret Service, who are going to now live in Trump Tower to protect Melania and his baby, who doesn't want to move to Washington, D.C. Oh, my God. The guy has every single solitary way to bleed money out of this government lined up. It's just a beauty. You want a new villain? You're looking right at him, and he's orange this time. Holy crap. Wilbur Ross, with this Kappa Beta Phi. You know what his first fund was? It was the Rothschilds Fund. You people that come out, oh, you're a Jew and you're a Jewish, Rothschild-loving Bolshevik, whatever the hell you're going to call. No, that would not be me. This is Trump's cabinet. Oh, I just can't even believe it. So in 2012, a New York Times reporter named Kevin Roose, he went to one of these meetings. He snuck in to the St. Regis as they were having their annual Kappa Beta Phi Beta Kappa backwards. And he said, it's not hard to see why they want to keep this freaking meeting secret. He said that Wilbur Ross's behavior was so crazy and so outlandish. And this was 2012. This is before any of this crap even happened on your radar screen, right? And he wrote this in 2012. So it wasn't anything against your Trump boy. It wasn't anything against the ranting lunatic on his fuck you tour, where he took everybody's time and attention last night just so he could say first of all, he lied. He said, I'm watching the TV and Pennsylvania's at 98%, and they don't want to call it for me. They don't want to call it. And then Ohio goes, and then Michigan goes. They just decided Michigan like this week. So what the hell was he talking? And nobody corrects him. Nobody, says this isn't a thank you tour. This is a self-aggrandizement, fuck you, Hillary Clinton tour. This is a you lost, I won. And he's saying it's a landslide. It's a landslide. It's not a landslide, okay? This guy got 2.5 now. Million votes less than Hillary. And you want to hear something really freaky? You're going to love this. You're going to love this. You're going to repeat this to your friends all weekend. So get this one really right. 46% of America didn't vote. About 3% that did vote voted for third parties. So you have about half of America voting. About let's just call 50%. It's a little less, but let's just call 50% of America voted. 50% said can't be bothered, right? Of those 50%, Donald Trump won 27%. Hillary Clinton won 28%. So 27% of America picked the president of the United States. Does that sound like a mandate to you? Does that sound like a landslide to you? Landslide. It was a landslide. That's all he was saying last night. It was a landslide.
There is no path for Donald Trump. Texas is in play. Do you remember that one?
I do.
Now, as a Republican, I'm supposed to win Texas. As a Republican, I'm supposed to win Georgia. As a Republican, I'm supposed to win the great state of Utah. I love Utah. Love those states. Remember when they said Donald Trump is going to lose to some guy I never even heard of? Who was that guy?
Evan McCollum.
He is going to lose to this guy. But the people of Utah were amazing, and we trounced them. We trounced. And by the way, Hillary came in second and that guy came in third. I'm still trying to figure out what was he going to prove. I wanted to find what the hell was he trying to prove. I guess he wanted us to lose the Supreme Court. That's about the only thing he was going to get. But think of it. They said, I'll tell you what, just 2-3 weeks before the election. And my friends would tell me just the opposite. They live in Texas and Georgia. They said, Georgia is in play.
Your
Texas
friends did?
is in play.
He just lied right
like
there.
We're even. And then we won in a landslide, both states. I said, what happened?
What happened? Voter suppression is what happened.
They go, for weeks, Texas is in play. Then you turn on the television like 2 minutes later. Donald Trump has won Texas. These are very, very dishonest people. Okay.
He goes on to trash the media for about another 2 minutes. I don't really need to hear it. We all know he hates the media, but he is a complete and total creation of the media. Without the media, Donald Trump is nothing and nobody. Without 14 years on a reality TV show, no one knows who the hell he is. Without all this coverage because he was such a bigot, because he was such a racist, because he started out with like almost, Mexicans are rapists and downshifted into Black Lives Matter. No, they don't. Blue Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is violent. Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, they're getting gunned down in the street. And Walter Scott's jury today, they're deadlocked. They're hopelessly deadlocked. So Walter Scott's trial is going to have to happen all over again. If you remember Walter Scott, he was the guy that was, he was in the car, pulled over for a taillight, being out on a Saturday morning. Who cares your taillight's out on Saturday morning? And they ran his name. There was one guy, Michael Slager, was the only officer, in that car. And he started running his name. And before he waited to see what came up, Walter Scott got scared and he ran away. Why? Because Walter Scott had a warrant for not paying child support. But had Michael Slager waited for that FBI report to come back on his machine in the car, it would have come back wrong, but it would have come back saying, this man is armed and dangerous, use extreme caution, he's violent, blah, blah, blah. And Michael Slager would have called for backup. But instead, he doesn't wait for his own report to come back. He just sees him flee and he goes after him. And of course, Walter Scott is running away And he's 18 feet ahead of Michael Slager, the police officer, and Michael Slager shoots him like 8-9 times in the back. And then takes his taser and throws it on the ground next to Walter Scott's dead body. The jury is hopelessly deadlocked. We're going to have a retrial now. That's an aside, okay? Let's say, I think the more I know, the sicker I get. Anyway, so we're talking about this Wilbur Ross dude, okay? Married to Betsy McCoffey. I know it's McCoy, but she spells it McCoffey. They're so annoying. Mnuchin doesn't have a vowel between the M and the N. Donald Rumsfeld was head of a pharmaceutical company I can't pronounce, and nobody's ever agreed on how to pronounce it. Anyway, Wilbur Ross, who bought up all the steel mills and just raped them. Just sucked every penny out of them for himself. So you see, just think about this. I mean, the Midwest could still be humming along. They could still be doing steel. They could still have their factories. They could still have their mills. They could still be cooking and just rolling along, ready for this war that is coming. And it could have been spread out. All this prosperity could have been spread out all across the steel country of the Midwest. But no. One guy decided that he should have it all. And that one guy that wanted all of it for himself is Wilbur Ross. That's when we talk about inequality in our system of government, the rigged system. This is what Donald Trump was telling you about. But it's so interesting that he goes after the guys that did it to you and brings them in. It's like The Godfather, man. And now he can kill people. So there you go. He is Don Corleone. Anyway, this Wilbur Ross was at this Kappa Beta Phi thing, and the reporter snuck in, and he said it's easy to see why they keep it secret. I mean, the behavior of these people. He said it's just a room full of financial tycoons, all in their own little niche, right? One guy is, you got hedge fund manager over here. You got a commodities guy over there. You got a guy that bought all the steel factories over here. You got the guy that bought all the sugar farms, whatever. He said, and they're all sitting there. They're just big, fat financial tycoons. And he said, all they are, they were the most vulgar, greedy, callous Wall Streeters making fun of the non-wealthy masses that they had taken everything from. He said they were homophobic, they were racist, they were sexist about the likes of Hillary Clinton. This is 2012, okay? They made fun of Representative Barney Frank of Massachusetts. They joked and laughed about the financial crisis of 2008 because they all profited off of it. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. The guy from IndyMac. The guy from and you people are living in a place where IndyMac foreclosed on your parents' reverse mortgage, or where they foreclosed on you, and you just voted for Trump, and Trump brings the guy who did it to you to the dance and makes him Treasury Secretary, second generation Goldman Sachs guy. Oh my God. So anyway, so they were making these really bad jokes. One was wearing a Confederate flag, and partway through the night, Wilbur Ross gets up on the stage and he makes an ass out of himself. And then, they figure out the Titans, the industry Titans, they figure out that this guy is a reporter from the New York Times. And so Wilbur Ross says, come out in the lobby. I want to talk to you. And he takes this guy, Kevin Roose from the New York Times out, and he goes, don't print any of this. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you inside information about, all kinds of things. I mean, I'll be your beck and call girl on so many financial issues. It'll be so good for you. It'll be fabulous. And this reporter said, no. And he wrote the story. But he said, Paul Quealy, a private equity executive with Welsh, Carson, Anderson, and Stowe, told off-color jokes to Ted Virtue, another private equity bigwig at Mid-Ocean Partners. And the jokes were really unfunny. He said, what's the biggest difference between Hillary Clinton and a catfish? One has whiskers and stinks, and the other one is a fish. Yeah, really old jokes. And the investment banking CEO that got on the stage with the Confederate flag, he sang a song about the financial crisis, how great it was for them. He said, in Wall Street, we'll land, we'll take our stand, said Morgan and Goldman. But first, we better get some loans. So quick, get to the Fed, man.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Well, the unthinkables happened. We have Donald Trump moving into the White House in 2017. Of course, this move brings extreme uncertainty to our country's financial future. I mean, you got the Don and his crew moving into the White House now, and who knows what they'll do to our economy. When he moves into the White House, everyone needs to get their own financial house in order before the Don and the crew have the time to do some serious economic damage to this country. Now, when it's time for financial security, it's time for gold. So call my friends at ITM Trading. Get a free gold kit. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Gold's always brought its owners security in uncertain times just like this. Call ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Get expert guidance from their precious metals consultants. They've helped tens of thousands of people navigate this market. They have the best reputation in the industry. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Hello, Progressive Voices Tune-In listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
What can you tell us, and where do we go from here with respect to the Affordable Care Act?
If they got past the barriers in the Senate, there could be a process by which people would lose their coverage. Wow. Now, the most likely alternative, however, is that they will use the budget reconciliation process because they would not have to go back through the Senate with the same kind of overall sweeping repeal and strip out certain portions of the funding for the Affordable Care Act, which would in effect kill it and render it very difficult for the exchanges to operate, sell insurance.
And what does this do for not only the 20 million Americans already insured through this, but for somebody like me who now has what they could consider a pre-existing condition?
If the insurance companies get an inkling that they're going to be asked to keep people like you and me, Casey, because we have had pre-existing conditions, but that the mandate for people to purchase insurance has been stripped away, which is one of the key elements of the Affordable Care Act that gave insurance companies lots of healthy enrollees, or at least people who didn't have chronic health conditions or other high-cost health conditions. If they strip that mandate away, insurance companies are not going to want to cover those with pre-existing conditions, and certainly not those of us who are not in our 20s and 30s anymore. So it is very worrisome. What we want to do is stand very offensively in favor of improved Medicare for all as the system that can solve some of this and take away this terrible uncertainty for everyone.
Check out our show at nursetalksite.com and listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on Progressive Voices.
Hi, we're back, and everything is possible again. Isn't it beautiful? Well, if you want to keep it this way, buy a stinking podcast. Oh, yes, you have to buy a stinking podcast. And you get that at RandiRhodes.com, where we're open all day, all night long. RandiRhodes.com. Get your stinking podcast.
Call in, connect.
Yeah.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. The first thing that you need to understand, well, let me just play you Donald Trump marveling at the heads of state that, he's called and have called him. This was last night. This is why this was not a thank you to anybody for anything tour. This was so sickening. This little teeny tiny little snippet here from this rambling, crazy ass speech. And why was I watching it? I was watching it because he said he was going to lay out his plan for the economy last night. That's what he said. He said he was going to Ohio to thank them for making him the 45th president. And he was going to tell them how he was going to take the rust out of the Rust Belt. He was going to tell them how he was going to make it all beautiful. And he never laid out his plan. He started out on the teleprompter and it was all kind of, herky-jerky. which, by the way, is my jerky company. Oh, I heard people are ordering Herky Jerky. You are going to freaking love this stuff. The guy who owns Herky Jerky called me yesterday and he goes, oh, I got so many orders yesterday. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy for you. Now send me some buffalo sticks. Well, the bacon, the slabs of bacon, oh my God, those are insane. But the sticks fit in your purse. I love those things. You can eat them during the break. It's so good. I love them. So herkyjerky.com. Anyway, the speech he gave last night when he's on the teleprompter, he's all herky-jerky. And then he just downshifts into, it was a landslide and the media is so dishonest and there's no, and he just starts talking about himself. He cannot stop himself. He can't. And then he said this.
And over the last 2 weeks since our victory, I've spoken to many foreign leaders. And I will tell you, they have such respect for us. They all tell me how this was amazing. They all tell me how they sat in their magnificent rooms in different countries throughout the world. These are the leaders, the prime ministers, the presidents, all of them. How they sat in their magnificent rooms watching in wonderment and hearing how people came to vote that didn't vote in 20 years. People came to vote that haven't voted before. And they had Trump shirts on, and they had Make America Great hats on, and they had buttons pouring off. And they thought it was amazing.
The leaders of foreign countries sitting in their magnificent rooms, which he had to say twice. It's very sick. This man lives like an Iranian dictator with all that gilt and gold and all that stuff. It's a very sick palate. He's got no taste whatsoever. But okay, that said, so he keeps on talking about himself and you know what he did today? Okay, you know about the Pakistan thing, which is, everybody covered it, right? Where he called up the prime minister of Pakistan, who, by the way, they're nuclear. They harbored Osama bin Laden. They are no friend of ours. They have that Wild West territory known as Waziristan, where the Taliban was free to roam all these years. And then we find Osama bin Laden living in a little, a house, watching a TV in Pakistan. In Lahore, Pakistan, just living there. I don't know if it was Lahore, but they're no friend of ours, and they're nuclear, and so is India. And India and Pakistan do not get along, and we actually have a relationship with India that is based on technology, that's based on healthcare. When you go and have a radiologist read your films, a lot of times, that person is not here in the United States. A lot of times, that person is sitting in India. But he calls Pakistan without telling anybody he's going to do it. You know what he did today? Today, he called Taiwan. You know that an American president hasn't called Taiwan since 1979? Because China and Taiwan are not friends. These are complicated relationships that we don't have time to get into here today, and that I'm sure would make your eyes glaze over anyway. However, you don't do this. It's almost like he's egging somebody on to do something untoward so he will have the reason to start bombing the shit out of people. I mean, it's so amazing how he's just trying so hard to piss off some really powerful countries with whom we have fairly peaceful, decent relationships. And if you wanted to fix the trade agreements, this is not the way. So I don't know what the hell, to say to you about that. But the thing that I want you to know about this cabinet is the thing that's so frightening about Goldman Sachs, the thing that's so scary about having particularly Goldman Sachs people. We've had a lot of Goldman Sachs people. I mean, the George Bush, Hank Paulson, the guy. Oh my God, the guy that actually got on the TV and said that we need $800 billion and we have to pay it to the bankers. Oh my God, give me $800 billion of taxpayer money, and I got to give it to the bankers. Because if you don't, every $700 billion, if you don't, your whole way of living will just disappear.
Under our proposal, the federal government would put up to $700 billion taxpayer dollars on the line.
Oh my God. I mean, these guys figure out how to make a bubble, burst the bubble, and then take our money and then reloan us our loans at higher interest. I mean, it's such a scam. It's amazing. It's mind blowing. It's breathtaking. Okay, so now we had Hank Paulson. He was the architect of the bank bailout, which was such a self-serving plan. That was a plan to take trillions of your dollars and pay it to a handful of people on Wall Street. A handful of people. This is why there's no prosperity in parts of our country. Robert Rubin, he was Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, 26 years at Goldman Sachs before he became chairman of Citigroup, which also got $300 billion taxpayer dollars in a bailout from Hank Paulson. And then John Thain, the asshole chief at Merrill Lynch, he bought during the crisis when our markets were imploding and our houses were, going belly up. During that entire period of time, he went out and bought himself an $87,000 Airrag. I'm not kidding. He knew he was going to get taxpayer dollars to bail out his bank. He went $87,000 for an Airrag for his office as his company was imploding, as it was happening live on TV. Time to go shop. He used billions of our taxpayer dollars. Billions of our taxpayer. And Thain also, he helped Bank of America get a bailout too. Robert Steele, the former guy from Goldman, he was head of Wachovia Bank. He got $225 million in golden parachute payments. And Wachovia was self-destructing. Joshua Bolton, Bush's chief of staff. Josh Bolton, anybody? Bolton, not John Bolton. Josh Bolton. Yeah, he was the chief of staff at the Bush for Bush at during the bailout. Mark Patterson, the current Treasury chief of staff, he was a Goldman lobbyist a year ago. Ed Liddy, the former Goldman director, whom Paulson put in charge of bailed out insurance giant AIG, he got $13 billion to Goldman. I mean, they took all of our money from our 401ks. They took all of our money from our house, which is probably the most valuable thing that you ever will own. They bankrupted us. Then they demanded our tax dollars to unbankrupt them. And then they made new loans to us at higher interest rates. It's just unbelievable. Okay. So you see that this is an absurd way to run a country. You see that there's no good that could come from this cabinet. You see what's going on here. And you probably don't even know where your money went. You probably don't even know. It's called commercial paper. It's not even real, okay? It's just commercial paper. It's money they lend and get, interest payments on. That's how it's just, here's the idea. You take a dollar. When they say leverage it, you take a dollar, you borrow 9. And then you take that $10 that you have and you borrow 90. And then you take that $100, and as long as the public is still lending, you borrow and you invest $900. And if the last fund in line starts to go belly up, starts to lose its value, and you don't have the money to pay back your investors that you got to buy this paper from you, and everyone gets massacred, then you go to the government and you put your hands out and you say, I need a bailout. This is what happened in 1929. This is what happened in the housing crash. And then all of a sudden the money moves from the housing market to someplace else. Where did it move after the housing crisis? It moved into commodities. What commodity? Oil. And all of a sudden you're paying $4 a gallon because they're padding the price of oil. And they pad the price of oil, and the barrel becomes worth more than the barrel is really worth. But you're going to pay for it. No matter what. That's what I'm saying. They're everywhere. They're in every nook and cranny of your life. And Trump has invited them all in. But the sickest one is the steel guy, Wilbur Ross. That just makes my blood boil because, you know, he's talking about the Rust Belt last night. And I'm just like, oh, my stomach is turning and churning. I'm so sick. And I know I have to tell it to you. And I got to, you know. Oh. All right. Deborah in Richmond. Hello. Thank you for holding.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
Wanted to just give you or get a feel of what you think about Trump. Excuse me, Trump and his people that are actually now starting to target progressive, or they've been doing it, but I think intentionally targeted for progressive airwaves like Morning Joe, who's doing their bidding.
Morning Joe is hardly progressive.
well, the
and
TV
the parent company, Comcast, is hardly progressive. And when Comcast bought that channel, everything changed. That's why I watch CNN. I watch CNN all day because you know that I have, you know, old friends. Old friends. I people I haven't spoken to in years and years, but they work there, and I don't, you know, I mean, I don't want to, you know, trash people. I don't, but you know, some of them. I just want you to know that those guys sitting on that TV there, they make $8 to $12 million a year.
Okay.
For what? I have no idea.
But listen. I guess I've been holding since yesterday to tell you this, Randy.
All right.
And so I got to tell you. So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of progressive people who aren't as astute as you are happen to look to MSNBC and like a lot of the people on there.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm only saying to you, the point I'm trying to make is Trump and his cronies are aware of that. So what I think that they're doing by using a show like Morning Joe is who fakes it out to try to be progressive. I don't like the show. But the point I'm trying to make is they're using that airwave of you know, there are not a lot of progressives using Fox. So they're trying to expand their coverage or people to listen to them to try to normalize what he's doing or normalize his bigotry and his anti-American agenda. Mm-hmm. So if he's got people on a progressive radio TV show and he's on there and and those people are constantly pushing him. Oh, Trump said this. Oh, Trump called. He looks like he's going to be, you know. Eventually, what they're thinking is the more you hear it, the less likely you're going to take to the streets to protest it. That's the biggest fear, that people are going to wake up and begin to protest and go to the streets.
Well, we are going to the streets. I mean, the day after the inauguration, there's like 1 million woman march in D.C., and that's not going to be the end of it, you know.
Right.
So we are going to the streets, and yes, there are more of us than there are of them, and even the voters, even the actual voters, you know, there were 2.5 million more that voted for blue than voted for the red team. So yes, they're very well aware. Now, as far as that station goes and media goes, here's what they're fighting for. First of all, you should know that Joe is a former Republican congressman from Florida. And everyone,
Joe Scarborough. I mean, yes. The country. Yeah, I remember him from way back. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
And one day his secretary just disappeared, and nobody knows what happened to her. But anyway, so we used to make jokes down here when I was a local radio host. We used to make jokes down here in Florida, going, "Hey, Joe, where's your secretary?" But okay, so Joe is a Republican. He will always be a Republican. Mika, on the other hand, is you're not allowed to be a liberal and just all by yourself. So she has to be there with Joe. I think they've fallen in love. I do. And I think that they're a couple now, from what I understand. I could be wrong about that because I just don't follow their lives anymore. However, what they're trying to do is get access to an administration incoming that doesn't like the media. That's why they're kissing ass.
Well, did you hear or did you read that she went to Trump Tower and that he's been advising the con man?
That's what I'm telling you. They want access to him.
Yeah.
This is
my
kind of,
make sure everybody knows be aware.
Well, listen. I want you to understand what the scenario is. I want you to understand the lay of the land. I want you to understand how it works. I have been trying to explain media to people for over 10 years now. People don't understand it, but this part of it is really easy to understand. The only way that a journalist or a TV news model or or a morning show host wins in the ratings is to produce Donald Trump. And so they are going to do everything and anything they can to make a safe, nice place where if Trump decides to do some morning show, he will choose them. That's all that's going on.
Yeah, and in the meantime, to get to that point,
what I'm trying to say to you, it's not a giant conspiracy what's going on that show or any show. It's not a giant conspiracy. It's just, eager beavers wanting access to a president who trashes the media, and whoever gets him wins. So they all become ass kissers. This is also why the New York Times, for God's sake, in the run up to the Iraq War, you had reporters writing puff pieces for George Bush saying, "Oh yeah, Saddam's got nuclear capability. Saddam's got lawn chairs. He's got aluminum tubes. Remember, he was going to make lawn chairs. Oh no, they're for centrifuges." And you had a reporter at the New York Times actually do it for him. Actually do it. These are ass kissers.
I remember that person. But are they still there with the New York Times? Still working for them?
No, she's not. But she's still talked to as if she's like a real reporter. I mean, she's still interviewed and she's still, But honest to God, man, you got people out there that are going to kiss ass to get access because that's the name of the game for the growing of their career. Now maybe you understand why this is not a guest-driven show. First of all, politicians only ever speak in talking points, and I have no patience for it. And then you become dependent on them, and you have to kiss their ass. Not going to happen.
The Randi Rhodes Show. He's live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Are you doing the herky jerky? Are you doing it? You need to do it. It's so good. I love jerky. Jerky is the official snack of the Randi Rhodes Air Force, and herky jerky is my favorite jerky of all time. It is incredible. It comes in elk, buffalo, beef, and bacon. Oh yes, bacon. Hot, mild, or 14 other incredible flavors. And right now, get $6 off your order of $50 or more. This bacon is a slab that you can put on BLTs. Use it in salads or just munch it right out of the bag. The sticks are perfect size for your purse. Just take them anytime you need some protein, work, school, camping, or just stick them in your bag and eat them anytime you need a protein pickup. It tastes like heaven. It's the right amount of spice. It comes in 14 other delicious flavors, and these aren't 3-ounce frou-frou bags either. These are big, beautiful, nearly 1-pound bags of fresh, delicious, perfectly spiced jerky that bites and chews like homemade jerky should. So do it. I do it. You should do the herky jerky. Go to herkyjerky.com. $6 off your order of 50 or more.
And the President of the United States is...
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
On the heels of the inauguration in our nation's capital, join your sexy liberal friends.
Some, I assume, are good people.
The Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour begins 2017 on Saturday, January 21st at Sidney Harmon Hall in Washington, D.C.
I am so saddened to hear that.
The election was no joke. It's real, but the Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour helps you shake off your blues and get you motivated to carry on and come together. Join Stephanie Miller.
She's very strong and very smart.
John Fugelsang.
Well, he's a very talented guy.
And comedy duo Frangela.
Both of them. I mean, this is a very talented family.
Come laugh with your sexy liberal friends in Washington, D.C.
Just tell me where and when, and I'll show up.
Saturday, January 21st, 8 o'clock p.m., Sidney Harmon Hall. Tickets available by calling 877-487-8849 or at ShakespeareTheater.org. Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour 2016 in Washington, D.C.
Here's what's happening on the Leslie Marshall Show on the Progressive Voices Network. A lot of people say that Donald Trump is dangerous when it comes to the internet, and I'm not just talking about the crazy 3 a.m. tweets. Following concerns about censorship and surveillance under a Donald Trump presidency. It is uncertain how surveillance and censorship might change under a Trump presidency and his administration. He, Donald Trump, the president-elect, suggested the tech industry should close that internet up in order to help defend the country from terrorist attacks. He said, quote, somebody will say, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. These are foolish people. A woman I met many years ago in Houston, Texas, Molly Ivins, many of you familiar with her writings, she is now gone. And she said she would rather somebody burn the flag and wrap themselves in the Constitution than burn the Constitution and wrap themselves in the flag. Catch my show, The Leslie Marshall Show, Monday to Friday on the Progressive Voices Network.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat, and apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
You know why? Because it's time, and the people are angry. They're angry. And they're going to get together. We're going to make joint decisions. We are, and the nice part, our victory was so great. We have the House, we have the Senate, and we have the presidency.
This is frightening.
But we want to get them on board also. People are constantly telling me and telling you to reduce our expectations. Those people are fools. They're fools. But this campaign proved that the old rules no longer apply, that anything we want for our country is now possible. Anything we want, right?
Oh, my God. Anything we want is now possible. We have it all, he says. We have the presidency. We have the Senate. We have the House. We're going to have the Supreme Court. He forgot to mention. We can do whatever we want now. We could have whatever we want now. Oh. All right. Where are we going? You want me to go to David? Brother David.
9,459 subscribers.
Really?
Tell 10 of your friends to go and sign up today. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. You're right around the corner from that magic number, sister.
Love.
Okay, I'm going to get to... Exactly. It's all about love.
I love that song.
I know that.
From Rent. We're singing Rent show tunes, everybody.
You
Rent.
have my attention.
Well, this is the thing. There's 3 things. I'm going to be real quick because I know there's other people that want to talk to you.
Yeah.
In the 16 years that I've been listening to you and the 12 that we've been speaking, I have never been prouder to be a member of your Air Force than this week because you have been a fire. No, seriously. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, chat room.
Hi.
You just heard the song. Tell everyone to get 10 more people, and the next thing you know, there we are. It's real interesting here in the belly of the beast, Randi.
Yeah.
I have to be very careful about what I say because it is a government contracting job. But I am now coming in contact as a call center person with people who are renewing or et ceteraing, a certain signature achievement of the outgoing president. And they're freaked. It's not buyer's remorse. They're freaked. And that alone tells me all I need to know. But the other thing is that in 2008, Barack lost the state with 20% of the vote. Depending on which election statistics you read for 4 years later, he lost with 19 to 20% of the vote to Mittens. She got 40% of the vote. This is what we have to do. We have to be aware that we're aware.
No,
Am I here?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry. I thought I'd hung up.
Oh.
This is why I led with how proud I am of you and of us, the us's that get it. We have to think resistance and be strong because they want us to be divided. It will be so easier to do the bigger things down the road if they can get a mini civil war and just keep it stirred up. And that's, to me, the thing that we the people have to resist. We have to keep coming and get herky-jerky gift cards for everybody at Christmas. And
let me tell you something. The only reason why I advertise for herky-jerky is because it's unfreaking believable.
I know from herky-jerky. You bet.
Oh, it's so good. And, so I got this jerky, and I said to this guy, he gave me this jerky, sent me this jerky, and I was like, you know what? This is so. Can I advertise for you? And he was like, "Okay." So
I want to put it on pizza. Yeah, no, it's very.
Oh, you
tasty.
can put. The bacon slabs. I hate to talk about this, but the bacon slabs. They're like these big slabs. You put them on. You make a BLT with them. Break them up and put it in the salad. Put it on the pizza.
I hope you bring that for lunch next week.
I asked him. I ran out of the buffalo sticks. Those are the most amazing. But that bacon is insane.
That's what I know from the buffalo sticks. Are
they're so good. They're so good.
But not to be. I mean, my friend Holly Hughes has started this whole thing that's going to happen on President's Day. Only we're calling it Not My President's Day, and it's going to be a national, and will probably end up being global day of performance, like during the Iraq War, theater companies around the world did La Strada on the same day. Well, this is going to be much more wide-ranging. It's Not My President's Day under the umbrella title of Bad Hombres and Nasty Women, and that's just one example. The artists in this country are very much aware of what's actually happening and what has to be done, because it's never again. That's,
it's about to happen again. And,
that's my point.
So here's the thing.
Turned it around.
Here's the thing. Everybody who voted for Donald Trump because they said Hillary would start a war, Donald Trump's going to start the war. Everybody who said that they voted for Donald Trump because Hillary talked to Goldman Sachs, because Hillary gave speeches to big banks. Right. But what she was telling them is, you better rein yourself in. You better just stop with
Clean up your act, kids.
Clean up your act, or we're going to do it for you. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been lunching and dining and sending Tupperware, with the garlic soup and the raisin caper emulsion over to Wilbur Ross, who bought all the freaking steel factories and stripped them down and sold them off.
See, that one alone, I had exactly the same reaction as you.
But I need the people who are out there who voted for Trump to know that these are the people that did it to you, and he's just invited them in.
Yeah, totally.
And the whole thing with the IndyMac Bank. I mean, I'm sure there are people listening who voted for Donald Trump who had somebody, or they were foreclosed on by IndyMac. Well, this guy that's going to be your Treasury Secretary is the guy who did it to you.
Exactly.
I just need them to say, I'm so sorry I did it, and do it before the electors cast their ballots. Not that although it's not that big of a ding, and here's why. Because if the electors, the Hamilton electors is this group that says, I don't know if all right, first of all, it's a pipe dream. But if it did happen, and crazy things have happened in this election, things.
We're still in a surreality TV show. Yeah.
Right. So this could be like the last twist in the challenge, right? So, but let's say they don't. Well, then the House of Representatives gets to pick some Tea Party freak.
And we know where that'll go.
Right. So either way, we're in for a rough ride for the next 2 years. So, everybody better buckle up, because this is not going to be easy. You need to be very wide awake. You need to be very aware. Listen, all they have to do. Okay, here's what basically caused the housing crisis. They relaxed underwriting standards for loans. That's how easy it was. They relaxed underwriting standards for loans. That's it. And it caused a crisis. Our economy is a very specific and fragile thing. Now, for those people who are so sick of the income inequality, these are the people that actually do it. These are the people that actually make sure that every dime, every nickel that you're worth goes to them. They destroy entire swaths of this country. They destroy housing markets. They destroy bond markets. They destroy banks. They destroy steel mills. They destroy textile mills. They destroy paper mills. They destroy everything because they can. And for them, it's fun. So you end up with like 100, 200 people at the very, very top taking everything from everyone in the middle. And all they have to do is twist a couple of rules. Just twist them. Relax this rule, or, loosen up the libel laws and sue us into the ground so we can't even talk to you. Do you know what I mean? It's such a simple little thing. Reggie in Decatur.
Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday.
Randy,
thank you.
And to your husband / call Senator Howard. Yes, you were talking about the military earlier, Randy. And I would just like to know, why is it that some of these conservative Republicans, whether they be politicians, radio and or TV talk show hosts, or even those like such as Ted Nugent, seem to want to be talking about war? They always bring up war. They always want to discuss and debate about war, but they themselves have never been into so much as a schoolyard fight, let alone a war.
Yeah, they're armchair warriors. They're wannabes.
Right.
They're never will be wannabe hacks is what they are. And they're very bold and big, telling other people to go fight their fight for them. But God help them if they had to drag their silly ass up at 5 o'clock in the morning and make sure that the weakest among you who could get you killed is ready, willing, and able to stand beside you and fight with you. They wouldn't even know where to begin. They wouldn't. You know what? They don't understand something that General Mattis does understand. And I've heard him say this. This is one good thing about, there are a lot of good things about, General Mattis as a warfighter, not as an executive. But General Mattis understands that what drives soldiers to take care of their brothers and sisters, what drives me to know that I'm a liberal, that I'm only as good as the weakest among me, and my job is to lift that person up if they can't get up, because they can get me killed, is affection. He understands that the way to another soldier's heart, the way to serve arm in arm, side by side, is affection, not hate. He does understand that. The military, in that way, is the most liberal place in the world because it understands that the weakest among you can get you killed. And so your job is not to put your boot on their throat, but to lift them up.